The panel holds firm common ground that when EU officials say there can be economic growth within austerity is a systemic lie. Therefore, in this framework, growth means repeated loans with no returns and the end of state capital. Political economy professor Joaquin Arriola says no visible way out for Greece but to leave the euro. The euro debt is primarily a private sector debt, but politicians choose to pay off the bank's overdrafts instead. This asymmetry will not be solved in the euro, says Arriola.
In the next months there will be probably more unrest and probably political changes. The real question is to know if those changes could be in order or would be express themselves in a complete disorder. Remember that in the transition between the 30s and the 40s in the last century was the transition between debt to fascism. And that is a clear possibility in our next future in many countries in South Europe.
Socialist Euro-MP Peter Murphy says the Greek working class is the laboratory rat in the European Union crisis that has brought along some 25 million jobless in Europe. Reducing labour costs and investments in the EU has seen some 3 trillion euros in the pockets of major businesses in Europe, while replacing regional governments with bankers for bankers. He says the EU will drive Greece out of the euro as soon as there is a leftist government in place.
Greece is now the weakest link in the chain of European capitalism, and it can be the link that breaks and where working people can overturn the capitalist system and fight for fundamental socialist change. The most likely scenario is that a Syriza-led left government will come to power, in my opinion, within the next year. The question is, does Syriza follow through on its promise to people to refuse to pay the debt? It would need to nationalise the banking system, take over the key sections of the economy, and I think that's something that will be supported by the majority of Greek people.
Economy professor Kostas Lapavitsas is adamant the Greek euro lobby tries desperately to keep the country in the currency, even though consumption, investments and exports are dramatically reduced, with low labour costs and unemployment the most expensive consequences.
2013 will be most probably a year of very significant social change in Europe. I don't think the Eurozone will survive the way it is because fundamentally hasn't changed. The Greek people have opposed this policy of austerity and so on imposed to them for the last practically 3 years. The truth is that they haven't succeeded in stopping it. At the same time, when people look for solutions and alternatives, they look to the left. The worrying thing is that some sections of the population are also looking to the extreme right now.
Greece leaving the euro will be a moral and practical precondition next year, say the speakers here. As the Greek left asserts itself ahead of upcoming systemic challenges, the priority remains the austerity deal be negated and that the country's debt be monitored by a public logistical committee. How this will be handled by a potential leftist government, or, if at all, this will feed from a potential and likely social rupture, remains to be seen. This is Konstantin Venizelos for Press TV in Athens.